Hi, in this lesson we're going to be looking at finding slopes and writing equations of lines. I'm assuming that you've done this quite a bit in the past in Algebra 1, so I'm going to assume that you know some of this, but I'll try to take it kind of slow. Okay, so in this lesson what you will learn, we're going to review the slope and how to find it. We're going to review writing an equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we'll start with how would you find the slope of AB? Okay, there are several ways to find a slope. If you have a slope that's already in the picture, if you remember, the slope is the formula, or not really the formula, but what people say that it is, it's the rise over the run. Or another way some people say it is the top number is how far you go up, and the bottom number is how far you go right. Okay, so that's what rise over run means. So in this case, you could count with your fingers, and you're going to go left to right. So I'm going to start at point A. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. So the top number would be 3. And then I'm going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4. So the bottom number is 4. So my slope would be 3/4. You'll notice that this line goes uphill, and when the line goes uphill from left to right, it has a positive slope. If it goes downhill, it has a negative slope. And so in that case, if it would have went downhill, then you would have thought of it, instead of up over right, it would have been down over right. And the top number would have been a negative. Okay, another way to find a slope is if you're given two coordinates. And we could have actually done that on the last page, is plugged in the two coordinates into this slope formula. So you can see the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And the little 2's and the little 1's, you'll notice those are subscripts. They're not superscripts, so that they're below. They're not powers, is what I'm saying. And what that means is the 1's mean that the first point. So we're talking about 2 points here. And so here's an example. We have point A and B. And so the 2 in A, that would be considered x1. Okay, because that is the first x. And the negative 3 would be y1, because that's the first y. And then in point B, that would be x2 and y2, because it's the second x and the second y. So you can see when I put these into the formula, I went y2 minus y1, so 4 minus negative 3. And on the bottom, I took x2 minus x1, so 0 minus 2. Remember, when you minus a negative, it becomes a plus plus, and so that's why the top was 7 and the bottom was negative 2. So you could also write that negative 7/2. Okay, here's an example for us to try on our own. So again, y2 and y1, that's what goes on top. y2 would be the 8, and y1 would be the negative 3. So we're going to go 8 minus negative 3 on the top. And then I'm going to take the second x minus the first x on the bottom, so 5 minus negative 6 on the bottom. So the top is going to turn into 11, and the bottom is also going to turn into 11. And so you can reduce your fractions when you're done, and so 11/11 is the same as 1. So that one has a slope of 1. Okay, here's a couple more examples. Okay, so now I'm not going to write the y2's and the y1's and so forth. So I'm going to take the second y, 3, minus the first y, which is 3, over the second x, which is 4, minus the first x, which is 7. So I'm going to get 0 over negative 3. And 0 over anything is always 0. So the slope of that line would be 0. Okay, the second one, I'm going to go negative 1, because that's the second y, minus 2. And then on the bottom, I'm going to go 0 minus 0. Now this time we get negative 3 over 0, and negative 3 over 0 does not equal 0. Remember, you're not supposed to have a 0 in the bottom of a fraction. So instead, we say that this slope is undefined. Okay, sometimes these are called the zero, with the slope of 0, sometimes people call that zero slope, and the undefined people call that no slope. That's just another name for undefined. Okay, so now let's talk about writing equations of lines. So you probably remember that the equation for writing a line is y equals mx plus b. And remember that m stands for slope. So the slope is the m. And the b is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept means that in a picture, that would be where the line would cross the y-axis. So sometimes you might get a picture and you'll be asked to find a line. Sometimes, like in this case, you're given a sentence and you need to pick out the slope and the y-intercept to find the m and the b. The y and the x, they're always going to stay where they are. And so it's always going to be a matter of trying to figure out what those two blanks would be, the m and the b. Okay, the first one is very easy. Write an equation of a line with a slope of 4, so the slope is the m, and a y-intercept of 6. And so you put a 6 where the b is. So your answer would be y equals 4x plus 6. Okay, now it's going to get a little bit harder. In the second one, again, we're looking to fill in these blanks. Y equals blank x plus blank. So it starts out easy enough. It says write an equation of a line with a slope of -1. So I'll put the -1 for the slope. But here's where it gets kind of hard. It says an x-intercept of 5. That's not the same as a y-intercept of 5. An x-intercept of 5 means that it's going to be here on the x-axis. And the coordinates at that point are 5, 0. So there's several ways that people sometimes use to find the b. Remember, we're trying to find the b. One way to find it is to use that y equals mx plus b formula and plug in everything else that you know. Okay, so we're going to plug in the 5, 0 point, and we're going to find out what the b would be if we plug the 5 and the 0 in there for x and y. So the y would be 0, so 0 equals, we know the slope is -1, and we know the x is 5 at this particular point, and plus b. Okay, so when we find this b, then we know that that must be the equation, because that's the only way that 5 and 0 would work in this equation. So if I continue to simplify it, I would have 0 equals -1 times 5 is -5 plus b. Now if I add 5 to both sides, I end up with 5 equals b. So now I have my b. It's 5. Y equals -1x plus 5. Okay, let's try another one like that. Okay, so again, this is really the hardest type of problem when you're making equations. So we have, again, we're trying to fill in the blanks. Y equals blank x plus blank. The first blank is the m, the second one is the b. Write an equation of a line that goes through the point -5, 1 and has a slope of 2. Okay, it says it has a slope of 2, so I have that point, or that number in that blank. And now I need to find the b. So remember what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that y equals mx plus b equation, and I know that this line goes through the point -5, 1. And so the points, or the numbers, the x of -5 and the y of 1 should work if we plug it into the equation. So I'm going to plug those in there and figure out what b must be to make that work. So the y is 1, and I know the m is 2, and I know the x at this point is -5. So now I'm going to figure out what b must be in order for that point to work. So I'm going to simplify it. So I'm going to take the 2 times the -5, and that's -10. Now I have 1 equals -10 plus b. So to get b by itself, I'll add 10 to both sides. Now I have 11 equals b. So it must be y equals 2x plus 11. Okay, we're going to do one more example, and the example I have left is a little bit different. Okay, in this example it's asking us to find the equation of the line, but this time it's a picture of a line. Okay, so we have to think about, again, what the m and the b stand for. So we're trying to plug in y equals blank x plus blank. The first blank is the m, or the slope. The second blank is the b. Remember, the b is the y-intercept. And what that means is we want to know where that line crosses the y-axis. And so in our picture, remember, the y-axis is the vertical axis. The x-axis is the horizontal axis. So it crosses, it looks like, at -1. It crosses the y-axis at -1. So I can just put a -1 in the second blank. Now, one of the first slides of this lesson, we worked on how to find the slope. And remember, the way we did that with our fingers, if we had a picture, was we found 2 points that were on the line, and we went left to right. Remember, this is a positive slope because it's going uphill, and it's going to be rise over run, or up over right. And so starting on the further left point, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up 8, and then right 1, 2, up 8, right 2. And so 8 divided by 2 simplifies to 4, and actually we could have went up 4, right 1 if we wanted to. That would have also worked. And so I'm going to plug 4 in for the m. So here's my equation, y equals 4x plus -1. Okay, so hopefully that helps you remember how to graph lines and how to find slopes. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in class.